Judges Corner is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and gatheringmagic.com. Support our show by visiting both websites. Now it's time for Judges Corner with David Green.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Judges Corner. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the 5 mechanics of Theros, a Greek-themed set, with things like soldiers, minotaurs, harpies, and even gods, just to name a few. So let's take a look at the very first mechanic of Theros. So the first mechanic is Heroic, which is a triggered ability that triggers when a card with Heroic is targeted by a spell you control. Each Heroic effect is different, so make sure to read them carefully. It's also important to note that it only triggers off spells that target, so things like Devour Flesh that target the player and not the creature, or Blood Rush, which is actually an activated ability and not a spell, won't trigger creatures with Heroic. But auras on the stack do target them, so they will trigger Heroic. Our next mechanic is Devotion, which is very similar to an older mechanic from Eventide called Chroma. Cards with Devotion grant specific things if your devotion to their specified color of mana is met, or in some cases, when they're not met. Your devotion to a color is equal to the number of mana symbols and the color of those mana symbols in the right-hand corner of the mana cost of all permanents you control. So, for example, if you control an Underworld Connections and 5 Shadowborn Apostles, your devotion to black is 7, not 12. A Luxodon Smiter will give a single white and a single green devotion, and a Boros Reckoner will have a devotion of 3 white and 3 red, not 4 white and 4 red. Also, permanents count their own mana cost symbols towards their own devotions. Monstrosity is our next mechanic, which functions by making creatures bigger and monstrous when you activate their ability. They'll typically get a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the number next to their ability, and you can activate this ability at any time. If you activate the ability again and again after you've already activated it, it won't really do anything. The effect will only do anything if they aren't monstrous to begin with. Next we have Bestow, which is a mechanic that functions around enchantment creatures that can be played either normally as enchantment creatures or as enchantment auras that can become creatures again if not attached to something, by paying their alternative cost when you go to cast them. Bestow creatures give their power and toughness to the creature they're enchanting, as well as any abilities that they might have. And, when casting a Bestow card for its alternative cost, if the target becomes illegal or is no longer there while it's on the stack, and it goes to resolve, it'll resolve as an enchantment creature instead, which is different from the normal rules regarding enchantment auras in this particular situation. And remember that Bestow is an alternative cost. When you go to cast the card with Bestow, you have to choose if you're paying its original cost or its alternative cost. And if you were to play the card through some other way other than casting it, you can't bestow it onto another creature. The last mechanic is Scry, which is a returning mechanic originally shown in Mirrodin block. Scry always has a number next to it, like Scry 1 or Scry 2. And when you scry, you look at the top cards of your library equal to that number, and then you can rearrange them and put them in any order on top of your library, on the bottom of your library, or you can even split them, leaving one on top and one on the bottom. So that's it for the 5 mechanics within Theros block. If you have any questions, make sure to send us an email at judgescorner@gatheringmagic.com. And to stay tuned for the rest of the week and coming weeks, where we're going to be talking about more about Theros and the cards within the set. So until next week, remember, Miss from Ultimus is now a god, so let's join his cult.